Venom is one of the most efficient and lethal weapons in the natural world, designed to shut down nerves, destroy tissues, and kill prey fast. But some of these venoms could be capable of saving more lives than they could ever take. And in labs around the world, scientists are taking toxins and turning them into medicine. From life-saving blood pressure medicines to experimental cancer treatments. Some of the most notorious venomous creatures on the planet are helping us fight our deadliest diseases. Hey guys, I'm Zachary Gray, and today we're going to be looking at 6 venomous snakes who could end up saving your life, including some that are responsible for the most influential and impactful life-saving treatments. But how could venom, something that's meant to kill you, actually save a life? There are hundreds of thousands of venomous animals throughout the world, and each species has its own unique venom cocktail, potentially made up of hundreds of different molecules, many of which we're still discovering and describing. The exact effects depend on the species, but the reason these animals have these venoms is to immobilize their prey and help digest them very quickly. Now, before we begin, I'd like to point out that I am not a medical professional. My experience is with the animals themselves, why these venoms exist, and their function in the first place. We won't be covering any medical advice in this video. However, all of the medical journals will be linked in the description for you to read if you'd like to learn more. But that's not my area of research. Particularly, I work with pit vipers in the southeast US, like the infamous cottonmouths and rattlesnakes. And one of these species is actually responsible for more envenomations in the state of Florida than any other snake. The Dusky pygmy rattlesnake is an incredibly common little viper, found throughout most habitats in Florida, becoming a lot less common as you leave the state. Like other pygmy rattlesnakes, these are some of the smallest rattlesnake species in the world, and because of that, they can be incredibly hard to spot, which is exactly why people get bit by them. Now, these snakes are not some crazy, toxic, deadly rattlesnake species. In fact, their bites are fairly treatable, and serious envenomations are really rare. But their venom contains molecules called disintegrins. One of them in particular is known as barberin, which is actually named after this subspecies of pygmy rattlesnake. The compound itself targets receptors in your blood that are responsible for helping platelets stick together and form blood clots. But instead of activating it, barberin actually inhibits that process. So when it enters your bloodstream, it actually prevents your platelets from forming clots. Now, I think you can see how this would really help them immobilize their prey, like lizards and small rodents. But scientists actually took this function and turned it into a drug called eptifibatide. Today, it's used in hospitals to help prevent heart attack and other serious cardiovascular issues by stopping those same clots before they can become life-threatening. Being as these snakes aren't super toxic and cardiovascular issues are one of the deadliest things on the planet, these snakes have actually saved more lives than they will ever take, which is insane to think about. Unlike this next snake on our list, which just so happens to be one of the deadliest in the world. The saw-scaled viper is quite small, but these snakes are among the deadliest in the world, with a death count well into the thousands. In fact, many would argue that these are the deadliest snake in the world throughout more remote parts of Africa and South Asia. The mortality rate for bites from this snake is around 20% before treatment. But thankfully, when treatment is available with antivenom and other medical care, deaths are incredibly rare. The most recent study that I could find actually identified 183 different venom components found in saw-scale venom. And most of these are designed to mess with your blood. Similar to the Dusky pygmy, some of them prevent clotting, while others will cause your blood to clot more. So their venom cocktail just completely disrupts how your body controls blood. One of those molecules is called equistatin, an anticoagulant that prevents blood from clotting. So nowadays, we can actually artificially synthesize it pretty easily, but it was first discovered in saw-scale venom. Then there's tirofiban, another drug that helps to break up blood clots, helping prevent heart attacks, especially in more high-risk patients. Now, while I was researching for this video, I thought, wow, that's really similar to eptifibatide. It seems like eptifibatide would be slightly safer, but surely nobody's gone and compared these two snake drugs, right? And sure enough, they did. While both work pretty well, it seems that there are less risks with the pygmy rattlesnake treatment rather than the saw-scale. In other news, I heard that we recently found some fish in the ocean. While saw-scale viper will likely never save more lives than their bites have taken, their venom has certainly played a role in saving some lives. Now, looking at these two snakes, it's clear that venom potency and purpose varies a lot, and that's often because of the snake's ecology. Pygmy rattlesnakes tend to live in fairly plentiful environments, and can eat just about anything, but they mostly feed on small lizards, which they're able to pretty easily overpower. Saw-scale vipers live in very harsh environments, and their venom is overkill for basically anything they'd want to eat. Mice, lizards, small birds, even scorpions and centipedes. Venom is oftentimes designed for a very specific purpose, and our next snake has a really bizarre venom that matches its bizarre diet. The Tamaulipan rock rattlesnake has a very unique venom with a lot of very complex cytotoxins designed to break down bugs. In fact, their venom is many times more lethal to invertebrates than it is to vertebrates. Things like grasshoppers, scorpions, and centipedes are preferred for the venom to lizards and small rodents. It has a unique disintegrin in its venom called Morulustatin, which, similar to our previous snakes, has been used to treat cardiovascular diseases. However, their unique cytotoxins show incredible promise in potential cancer and metastasis research because of the way that their cytotoxins break down cellular functions, specifically adhesion. Long story short, because their cytotoxic venoms help to digest invertebrates, there's a lot of unique proteins with different functions than your typical rattlesnakes would have. And this is all brand new information, and we're still doing a lot of testing. Tamaulipan rock rattlesnakes aren't an insanely toxic species. They tend to live in very remote areas, so bites from these guys are very rare, unlike this next snake. Copperheads are one of the most common venomous snakes in the US, and they cause more snake envenomations than any other species in the country. Their incredibly wide range, habitat usage, and that insane camouflage means that a lot of people will accidentally grab or step on these snakes while out hiking or working in their yard. Thankfully, their venom isn't super toxic. In fact, they have one of the most mild venoms of any of our native viper species, with severe, life-threatening bites often being caused by really bad reactions to the venom. Still, they are certainly a snake to keep a good distance from. Most snake bites happen when people try to kill or remove the snake, so that's never a good idea. Copperhead venom is mostly comprised of hemotoxins and cytotoxins, and some of you might have even heard about this before, but components in their venom, Contortrostatin, as a treatment for breast cancer, has already been in testing for some time now, and many people, including myself, think that there is a lot of potential as an anti-tumor drug. So far, we've seen these unique copperhead proteins block breast cancer growth and the attachment of cancer cells to various proteins. Specifically, they help block integrins, which help regulate interactions between cancer and other cells. And thanks to the copperhead, we now know how to produce these proteins in large quantities. I think eventually the aim is to have a targeted delivery system, either from an IV drip or injections, to help combat cancer or to work alongside other cancer treatments. But that is certainly outside of my expertise. What I do know is that copperhead's mild venom and varied diet made them a perfect candidate to look at closely for their venom's use in medicine. And you might be thinking to yourself, using venom or at least venom components to save someone's life has gotta be risky, or at the very least have some side effects. And I would only say that's true to a certain extent. Oftentimes your liver is responsible for breaking down these toxins, and sometimes even the isolated proteins from venom can put a lot of stress on your liver. But there are many factors to consider before any of these potential treatments would be used. Just like any other drug. I mean, heck, we use radiation and synthetic chemicals all the time in medicine, and it basically has the same effect. Medicine is really tough, and we oftentimes need to explore every potential avenue and treatment option available to find the right fits. And sometimes that just so happens to be derived from snake venom. Our next snake is one of the most infamous vipers in all of Central and South America, the Fer-de-lance. These snakes dominate tropical ecosystems, from dense rainforests to agricultural land, and that's part of what makes them so dangerous. Fer-de-lances tend to thrive in any habitat, including human-altered environments, and that puts them in direct and frequent contact with people. Not only that, but their bites can be incredibly serious and life-threatening. Fer-de-lance venom is a complex mix of hemotoxins and cytotoxins, but their venom also does something very different than the snakes that we've covered so far. It signals to the body to send immune cells like neutrophils to help defend against it. And while that might sound normal at first, in this case, the immune system floods the area dramatically, which increases a lot of swelling and tissue destruction, often leading to more severe necrosis. Fer-de-lance venom literally tricks your body into destroying itself. But it's also given us one of the most fascinating tools in modern medicine. One of those being batrozobin, also known as reptilase, an enzyme that was originally isolated from these snakes' venom. This compound directly interacts with blood proteins and behaves exactly like the enzyme in your body that forms blood clots. Batrozobin has been used in testing blood clot function, especially in cases where traditional tests don't work properly, particularly when patients have a lot of anticoagulants in their bloodstream. It's also been explored as a treatment for certain clotting disorders and even stroke research, where modifying a clot formation can absolutely be life-saving. Fer-de-lances may be deadly, but it's no stretch to say that blood issues and clots are far deadlier across the world. And it just goes to show that even animals that people absolutely despise or even wish never existed at all, not only have their place in their own environment, but they also have a place in our own scientific progress and potential life-saving treatments. And before we take a look at our last snake, we have one honorable mention that is actually not a snake, but another venomous reptile, and that is the Gila monster. One of our very few venomous lizards. Their venom has given us not only some of the drugs that we use to treat type 2 diabetes, but also with those diabetes drugs, another very popular and sometimes controversial drug, Ozempic. Ozempic was developed from an enzyme derived from Gila monster venom for the purpose of treating diabetes, but nowadays it's oftentimes used as a drug for weight loss. Now, I'm not going into the details of that in this video. Once again, I'm not a medical professional, but I was surprised how few people knew that Gila monster venom and other GLP-1 drugs led to its development. That is certainly a topic for a whole nother video. So if y'all are enjoying this one about snakes, make sure to subscribe and comment down below if you'd like to see a future video covering all the venomous creatures' contributions to medicine. And for our final snake, we have the Jararaca pit viper, otherwise known as the Brazilian viper. And this one might be one of the most important snakes in medical history. This relatively medium-sized lancehead found throughout southeast Brazil can often be found at forest edges and farmland. Like many other lanceheads, it's responsible for a serious amount of bites every year. And these snakes are certainly quite toxic. But what makes these snakes stand out in medicine is the effects of their bite. Back in the mid-20th century, scientists noticed that bite victims of this snake in particular experienced a dramatic drop in blood pressure. That observation led researchers to isolate a group of compounds in their venom that causes blood vessels to relax and widen. For the snakes, this helps crash their prey's circulatory system. But in humans, that same mechanism is the foundation for one of the most important classes of drugs that we ever developed. Those venom-derived compounds led directly to the creation of Captopril. Captopril was designed to lower blood pressure in a controlled and predictable way, treating hypertension, heart failure, and many kidney diseases. Over time, refined use of this inhibitor drug proved to significantly reduce mortality, and this was in real medical treatment. While Captopril has largely been replaced by other blood pressure medicine, this drug was actually the scaffolding that many of those drugs actually built on. So not only did it save many lives between the 60s and 80s, but it remains a powerful example of how highly toxic snake venom can actually be repurposed into life-saving treatment very effectively. Snakes are probably one of the most hated animals on the planet. Many of them are truly dangerous, and they can be severely medically significant. But I just wanted to show y'all how important these animals can be, both in and out of their natural environments. These snakes contribute to our world in an incredibly meaningful way. Their venom isn't designed for us. It's designed to catch prey, not for going around and killing people. And it's up to us to not only respect their contributions, but to continue to learn more about them. And if you want to learn more about snakes and their environment, make sure to check out this video where we flipped over 1,000 rocks in the Appalachian Mountains, searching for one of the venomous snakes that we featured in this video. Thank y'all for watching this video, and we will see you guys next time.